Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. We are upcoming on the WWE Super Showdown show, coming to you live from Saudi Arabia, which is going to be coming to you live on the WWE Network Friday. This is going to be one of those, kind of weird shows that you can sort of gets thrown in on the WWE Network, with that $10 a month that we all pay. That pretty much when you break it down, I mean, in this last week, we had and NXT have one of their takeover shows. You're going to get Super Showdown coming up this week. Just very recently, we had the Money in the Bank show. Definitely, you can really take a look at that 1 month chunk of WWE and really think that $10 is mostly a steal. When I grew up, paying $30 a month to watch WWE pay-per-views during the Attitude Era. Pay-per-views were as high as $40 a month, before the WWE Network came around. I talked about this when I talked about the Double or Nothing show last week. I really couldn't remember the last time I found an illegal stream because WWE Network is so easily available on the WWE Network. I can watch it right there on my TV. Basically, the $10 taken out of my month, out of my account every month. I feel like I'm getting my money's worth. And even though this isn't really a show that I think is must-see television for me, honestly, if I'm sitting on my couch Friday afternoon and I'm not out doing something, I'm more than likely going to turn it on the WWE Network and watch this show because on paper, this looks like a really good show. The only thing that's going negative against it is this is the third show we've seen from WWE going over to Saudi Arabia. They made a big deal out of the world's greatest Royal Rumble. They made a big deal out of the Crown Jewel show. And honestly, both of those shows were like average house shows that were just ran in a major arena that had a full, a full crowd. But the one match that comes to my mind was the John Cena versus Triple H match. Whereas honestly, it really felt like those guys were just sort of going through the motions. Like this was a 2010 house show, and this is supposed to be hyped up as another WrestleMania, and they just didn't seem like they were going all out for it. I know that there's a lot of travel in order to get to these shows, and it's sort of like they just unpack, do the show, and they're right back on, the plane coming back home. So it's just like collecting this big, huge payday, which is sort of bringing in tons of revenue for WWE to putting them into the new heights of just making tons and tons of money. The stock price is just going through the roof with this show, as well as, the new television deals coming up with Fox and the USA Network for Monday Night Raw. But when you look at this show, on paper, I don't see how this show doesn't deliver. You've got a main event of Undertaker versus the Goldberg, but Undertaker didn't have a match at this year's WrestleMania. Goldberg, we haven't seen him have a match in over a year since his WrestleMania match when he lost the WWE Championship. Both of these guys coming back for the huge payday. What are they really going to bring to the table? Triple H versus Randy Orton. This was a heated rivalry through the Evolution days, having matches until when was the last? I would guess probably somewhere in 2013 off the top of my head. But when you think of rivalries, Triple H versus Orton's one of the ones that just seems like the match just kept going on and on and on, almost like Cena versus Orton. Rollins versus Corbin is just whatever, but that all could change with WWE's Monday Night Raw. Brock Lesnar has promised to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase. Will it be on Seth? Will it be on Kofi? Stephanie has sort of stepped up saying that she's gonna be taking repercussions against Brock. So maybe Brock comes walking out there and, decides he's going to cash in. And because of the fact that Brock's been making a mockery out of the Money in the Bank briefcase, making promises that he can't deliver on, and Stephanie feels like people watching WWE are, being, filled with bait and switch. she's going to probably take actions. And everybody thought that Brock was going to be on this Saudi Arabia show, and he's not even on it, unless he's going to be another surprise, a lot like the Money in the Bank show, where he does cash in on this one. I would be really surprised. But Rollins versus Corbin is the match. Got a WWE Championship match of Kofi going up against Dolph Ziggler. Ziggler hasn't really been on the main roster. The last time we saw him was at the Royal Rumble. The last time we saw him before that, he kind of walked out on WWE. And Ziggler's done it all. I mean, he's put his career on the line. He's walked out after winning the United States Championship. And I guess this does fall in line, because the reason why he came back was for a WWE Championship shot. Maybe he saw a guy a lot like him that was in the mid-card finally get that main event spot by winning the championship. It's something that sort of eluded him for a long time. He did have that run where he cashed in after WrestleMania 29, but because of concussions, he was forced to be stripped of that championship a month later, and then I don't think he's ever got it back since or been even close. So we'll see. Intercontinental Championship match. We've got Finn Balor going up against Andrade Cien Almas. Roman going up against Shane, which is sort of a big match going back to Survivor Series a few years ago. Of course, everybody remembers Shane McMahon coming off the top rope but being speared by Roman. Of course, Shane got knocked loopy, and that was his elimination because of the fact that he could not go on. Strowman versus Lashley, to me, is just sort of another match. And the Lucha Party versus Lars Sullivan is just sort of match filler as well. So we'll see what goes down with this one. But I'm hoping for a big show. I'm hoping that's going to be a good one. We'll just have to see how Undertaker versus Goldberg delivers. Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. Main event of the big Super Showdown show in Saudi Arabia. It's going to be coming to you on Friday, June 7th. It's going to be Undertaker versus Goldberg. The last time we saw Undertaker in a match was at WrestleMania 34. That, of course, is when he lost in New Orleans to Roman Reigns. And then Goldberg, the last time we would see him was in Orlando, losing the WWE Championship to Brock Lesnar. And then, of course, he came back at WrestleMania 34 to go into the Hall of Fame. Of course, everybody remembers that Hall of Fame speech because of the fact everybody left. There was nobody left in those seats. I don't know if that's because the WWE Hall of Fame was running long and everybody had to get home in order to get ready for bed, in order to go to WrestleMania the next day, which was going to be a long day with walkthroughs and everything like that. But one thing led to another. Somebody got up, and then somebody else got up, and then everybody left. And I don't know if that's sort of an answer to how Goldberg treated everybody on the roster, or if it just could have been a coincidence. But Goldberg's somebody that a lot of people said have always looked up to because of his time during the Monday Night War era, being the leader of WCW, but maybe he just rubbed a lot of people the wrong way at this time in WWE. But if you watch the WWE special about him being there, it seemed like, he sort of, really took a hold of that last run in WWE, maybe trying to make up for the run that he had back in 2002, 2003, which didn't really go that well because of the fact, he came in to do a promo with The Rock, and The Rock wasn't around because The Rock was busy making movies and not in WWE at the time. So they weren't able to really have that run that they thought they were going to have. They just got to have that one Backlash match, and that was it. But Undertaker, people said he didn't work WrestleMania 35 because of the fact that WWE didn't really know what to do with him. Of course, when you lose at WrestleMania once, losing the streak, and then basically you just come back and then you lose again, I think a lot of the mystique of Undertaker at WrestleMania is done. I've always said that once Undertaker lost that streak and he did retire, I wouldn't be mad at him to come back and do, Raw 1050 or, Retro Raw or Old School Raw or, whatever you call it, maybe showing up at a house show or being like the dark match appearance. I once went to an advertised SmackDown, and all The Undertaker did was during the Core versus the Edge and Undertaker was he flickered the lights appeared at the top of the stage and disappeared. That was the whole Undertaker appearance. We saw him for less than a second. But it was enough for Edge to pull out the win against the Core in a dark match, so it is what it is. But this is a match that I think a lot of people have on their drawing boards. It's not Undertaker versus Sting. It's not Goldberg versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's possibly the two biggest dream matches that people have with both of those guys. But I think this is going to be a big one. I don't really honestly think it matters who wins. I'm going to pick Undertaker to get the win in this match. But I think it honestly really could go either way. I think both of these guys are just out there collecting the paycheck. And I think it would be awesome if they actually cashed the check while in the ring. Like, they took the check over to the ref and the ref broke out some hundreds, rolled them off, and then they just stuck the money in their back pocket, and then they went out there and started fighting. I don't think there's any big angle to come out of this. No one's going to be the number one contender. Nobody's going to become the new Legends champion. I guess they could come up with a belt. Braun Strowman won a belt for winning the world's greatest Royal Rumble, and right there on the spot, I said we are never going to see that belt ever again unless it's like at a WWE Access. And he didn't bring that thing out the next night on Raw. He didn't bring that thing out ever. He never talked about it when the Royal Rumble came around. That thing was just a house show that was on the WWE Network. And I think that's really all this show is going to be. I'm not expecting this to be a 5-star, not even expecting a 4-star. Wouldn't even be surprised if this match goes less than 5 minutes. But it's going to be Undertaker versus Goldberg. I think that once this match is over, we'll remember it for more than what it was. So I'm just hoping for something that we can remember. Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. Triple H versus Randy Orton, the big match that's going to be going down at WWE Super Showdown. If it wasn't for Undertaker versus Goldberg, I honestly would think that this is going to be the main event of the show. When they did the world's greatest Royal Rumble, we had Cena versus Triple H. Triple H had a match against Undertaker at the Crown Jewel show. So it seems like they try to make sure that if Triple H is going to have a match at one of these Saudi Arabia shows, it's a match that plays off of a rivalry. It's a match that means something to old school wrestling fans, and as well as it means something to the people in Saudi Arabia that are getting something that's worth it. Of course, Triple H gave Randy Orton the big rub back in 2003, when Orton came back from injury as a member of Evolution. Of course, that would be with Triple H, Ric Flair, Randy Orton, and Batista. They had a little bit of a run after WrestleMania 30 when the Shield was going up against Evolution in tag matches. Actually, Shield got the win in both of those. One of them was at Payback. I think that was the last one because Seth Rollins would come back the next night, taking Dave Batista's spot in The Authority, and turned his back on the Shield. Orton versus Triple H is main evented WWE for a long time. Of course, Randy Orton stepped out of the shadow of Evolution by beating Chris Benoit at SummerSlam. The next night, Triple H would kick him out of the group for basically stealing the spotlight and overstepping his bounds. Triple H would beat Randy for the championship after that, and Randy would have his time where he got to be the leader, of WWE. He has a massive heel group. He had the championship for a long run with Evolution when he had his own group with Ted DiBiase and Cody Rhodes. I can remember going to the Bash 2009 where these guys, I'm pretty sure they main evented the show in I think it was the 3 Stages of Hell match. And actually, Orton got the win in a stretcher match in the end because DiBiase came out, and I think he leveled Triple H with his own sledgehammer, if I remember right. I could be wrong, but I think that was the finish. This is the match that, because of the fact that the last 2 Triple H matches, even that tag match, with DX going against the Brothers of Destruction, these matches are just house show matches, and I think they're really supposed to mean something in the long run, but I don't think they've ever really delivered. So I'm not really looking for anything much more than maybe a 10 to 15 minute I'm not going to call it a rest hold fest, but these guys, I don't think everybody going to be going at full steam. In this match, I'm going to take... Dude, I wanted to take Orton to get the win, but I think Triple H might win this one. I really do. I'm pretty sure Cena beat Triple H, and then Triple H beat Undertaker. So I'll take it. I'll take Orton to beat Triple H in this match. I'll take the upset, I guess you can say. Even though Triple H is my favorite guy and it's hard to root against him, I guess in my gut, I don't think he's gonna win this. So we'll see what happens at the Super Showdown on Friday. Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. WWE's Universal Championship is going to be on the line at WWE's Super Showdown on Friday. It's going to be your Universal Champion Seth Rollins going up against Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin actually won the chance to be the #1 contender for the Universal Championship by beating Braun Strowman, The Miz, and Bobby Lashley in a fatal 4-way match on Monday Night Raw. Baron Corbin, to me, I think is a really cool dude. At one point when he was in NXT, I thought he was really cool. I didn't know. In my mind, I thought he was a babyface. He could have been a heel. He didn't really talk that much. He just wore like the hard rock heavy metal t-shirts. I don't know if that's gone away because that's sort of Eric Rowan's gimmick right now. But, I was cool when Baron Corbin shaved his head. I was cool with, him changing his look when he became the, I guess you can call him the GM or the helper of Monday Night Raw, whatever the heck he was. He came into power. He started wearing a suit. It made sense. He wrestled in the suit. But, the Authority back in December kicked him out of power. He came out there. He asked for his job back. They said, no, we're going to do it now. We're going to make wrestling better. And since December, we're now in June, and Corbin's still wearing the same suit. It don't really make sense. In my opinion, I think if Baron Corbin was in wrestling attire, it would make more sense, and I think he would be a believable ass kicker. I don't know if you put this guy in a singlet, if you just put him in jeans like he's Diamond Dallas Page, but that would make the world of difference to me, because Baron Corbin being the #1 contender against Seth Rollins, we got a surprise at Money in the Bank when Brock Lesnar came out and won the briefcase. This match could be thrown out the window because Brock has promised to cash in the briefcase on Monday. A lot of people thought that Brock Lesnar was going to be going to the Super Showdown, so he's been a part of all of the other foreign shows in Saudi Arabia. I don't think he was on the Australia show, but I could be wrong, honestly, in my mind. But it doesn't look like he's going to be a part of it. Maybe Baron Corbin beats the shit out of Rollins. Rollins finds a way to, overcome and win the match, and Brock comes out and he cashes in on this one. That's one way you can really make this show mean something. But as of right now, it looks like Brock's not going to be a part of it. So, to me, honestly, Baron Corbin being the #1 contender, it's not like anybody in that #1 contenders match was really making me jump out of my seat to see a really good match against Seth Rollins. Seth's a great champion. I got nothing against him. My problem is that the way they've got the roster split going on, it doesn't really seem like they've got anybody worth being a #1 contender to go up against Rollins as champion, unless it's AJ Styles, which I was really hoping for a heel turn at the last pay-per-view, and then when Rollins beat him, I was really looking forward to something like when they did the AJ versus Nakamura heel turn, where Nakamura, lost the match and then just punched him in the nuts when they were having the handshake of respect. Maybe I wasn't looking for the same thing, but maybe something like that. They're not really using the club at all. You've got Luke Gallows and Machine Gun Carl Anderson just sitting in the back. I don't even know if they work house shows, but they're sure damn not on TV. And I know you don't want them just playing, back up to AJ Styles, but, when AJ had those guys with him, and he was going up against, John Cena, who was it that Cena tagged with? They main evented a pay-per-view. Well, not main evented, but they had one hell of a match at a pay-per-view. It might have been Cena and the Usos, which kind of makes sense, but I'm not 100% sure that's who it was. But, why you can't have AJ as the leader of the heel group? You can call him the BC, you can, call him the club, you can call him whatever, And it makes sense. It worked once. I mean, AJ's done just about everything in the world as a babyface, and if he's not going to be going out there and having 5-star matches against Rollins, I don't know what you're doing. But there's no chance in hell Baron Corbin's winning the championship. I know that much. So put your money on Seth. Hopefully we'll see what goes down on Monday Night Raw and see if this match even happens.